Owen Jones and his far-left mates think it's time to dump Farage, but I think it's time to dump Owen Jones and to dump far-left fascism. Today I was unlucky enough to see Owen Jones's face on my Twitter timeline, which doesn't happen all that often because for some reason I'm blocked. Not that I'm really all that bothered, who would want to see this face on the screen every morning? But what I saw made my blood boil, as it usually does whenever this moron opens his mouth on television. He's running this new campaign called Dump Farage. The plan is to get Nigel Farage sacked from his radio slot on LBC. Have a quick, brief look at the video that they published today.
LBC are legitimising and making mainstream right-wing extremism and fascism at a time when the far right is on the march and poses a grave threat to this whole country. And major companies are absolutely directly complicit in it, and they have to be held to account.
Companies are complicit in supporting fascism because they support Nigel Farage somehow, technically, indirectly, through sponsorship and advertising deals. Sorry, mate, but no. No. Jones is trying to compare Farage with, say, I don't know, National Action or the National Front or something. Now, I've got my issues with Nigel Farage. I think it was wrong for him to call me and thousands of others supporters of Anne-Marie Waters racists. I think that was wrong. But that doesn't make him a fascist, and I'm willing to accept that. Owen could learn from this. Your enemies aren't automatically fascists because you don't agree with them.
On the streets, the far right are on the march, sometimes causing mayhem as they do so. And when Donald Trump visited and they took to the streets, we had an attack, a violent attack, on a senior trade union official.
The far right, he says, are marching on the streets and causing mayhem, but remind me just how many tens of thousands of people rioted in the streets of London when Trump arrived? When the President of the United States arrived in the UK, they behaved like children, rioted, caused mayhem just because they didn't like the president. And if we're going to start using violent attacks, by the way, examples of violent attacks that happen at protests as evidence for some kind of political threat, then why are we ignoring the constant violence from the far left and Antifa, often supporters of Owen Jones? I once saw an Antifa activist in Liverpool punch an old woman square in the face. This is all too common. It happens all the time. And what about the hustings in Lewisham East where Anne-Marie Waters stood in the by-election? A hustings was called. It was meant to go ahead with a debate, and hundreds of far-left crazy people turned up outside, violently attacking people trying to get in. They pushed over an old man with a walking stick, a friend of mine. They spat in the face of a young girl. And this was sponsored, by the way, by the Labour Party and Stand Up to Racism. These are supporters of the people like Owen Jones. And Owen Jones, where was your outrage when that happened at the Lewisham hustings? Or are you only selectively outraged because you're an ideologue pushing an agenda? And here, by the way, Owen gets into the crux of his point. He thinks that if Nigel Farage is a ringleader of the far right, which somehow, I mean, a ringleader of the far right? What exactly is far right in Owen Jones's book? Because as far as I can see, Nigel Farage is just a Eurosceptic Tory. But that is somehow Nigel Farage is therefore putting people in danger in that because Owen disagrees with him, he doesn't deserve to have a job on LBC.
The LBC presenter and former UKIP leader, Nigel Farage, provides the gateway between the mainstream media and right-wing extremism.
Owen Jones, it's not your job to tell people what they can and can't think, and you're not a moral compass for us all to live by. You're a jumped-up metropolitan turd. You're from a long line, by the way, of communists and Trotskyists. Don't you think that it's funny that over 4 generations of your family have been communists and Trotskyists? Does that not show you that your loyalty is to familial tradition and not to reason, right? You don't speak for me, Owen Jones, and you don't speak for millions of other Brits. The more I see of this, the more my blood boils. I'm watching my country before my very eyes be destroyed by extremists, literal extremists who are now trying to tell a radio station who they can and can't hire. The aim of this video is to dump Farage, but I think it's time to dump fascist Owen Jones. I know it's not cool to say that the left are the real fascists, but hear me out on this one. Owen Jones is an authoritarian. We know this because he's telling LBC that they shouldn't hire Nigel Farage, that they should sack him, and that Farage doesn't deserve a job because, well, he's mean and far right. And now he's calling on his minions of backwards, underachieving pinheads to start pretending that they will never shop at TK Maxx again unless they get rid of Farage. This is authoritarian. Owen Jones is also a socialist. He says it himself. His parents met as members of a Trotskyist military group, and his grandfather was a member of the Communist Party, so he comes from a long line of socialists. And Jones wants to clamp down on freedom of speech, and he uses Joe Cox propaganda to convince the country that there's a threat from neo-Nazis. Neo-Nazis! In 2018, England, seriously. And he'll stand by his imbecile followers as they harass conservatives, kick people like me out of university, and attack people's homes with bricks. He'll stand by and watch as his minions try and silence political speech, as they try and overturn the result of a democratic referendum, and as they riot in the streets to oppose a political visit that they just don't like. This is fascism. This is real fascism. This is a fascist authoritarian threat that I care about. And by the way, Owen Jones, I don't like Nigel Farage. I don't. But unlike you, I'm willing to accept that people have different ideas and deserve to have a voice. Even you deserve to have a voice, as much as that pains me to say it. I think it's important that LBC continues to hire people with a wealth of experience, different backgrounds, different ideas, because that's the basis of free discussion and the basis of a free society. It's time we fought back against far-left bullying and harassment campaigns. Owen Jones's attempt to get Nigel Farage fired from LBC has a wider impact on freedom of speech in this country, and it's only going to result in more bullying and more harassment of decent working families all over the UK by these rabid far-left lunatics. Dump Farage? I think it's time to dump Owen Jones and dump far-left fascism. But instead of harassing Owen Jones's employers and advertising partners, why don't we take the time to remind LBC sponsors and advertising partners that we're proud of free discussion in the UK, we support open discussion, and that we'll gladly continue purchasing their products. So here are all the brands that Owen Jones is calling on his minions to harass. They include BMW, McDonald's, TK Maxx, Oasis, and NatWest. Tell them that you love their products, you'll continue purchasing their products and buying their services because you're proud that they support a radio station that believes in free and open discussion. Let's take the high ground on this. While Owen Jones and his cronies continue to attack businesses, put jobs at risk, and attack our tradition of open discussion, we'll say that we're willing to protect business, protect freedom of speech, and we're ready to dump Owen Jones. If you like that and want to see more, remember to like and subscribe and download the new Rebel app from the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store.